Hi, everyone. It's good to be with you all again. I'm Isaac.
Hi, everybody. I'm Brittany. It's nice to be with you all again as well.
And today, Brittany and I are just going to have a conversation about how to manage stress during COVID-19. Um, we're gonna we're gonna have a conversation. We're gonna give some stories, some personal experiences, and maybe some tips about how to get through this thing.
Yeah, so stay tuned with us and we're going to get started.
Thanks.
So, first off, I know being in the house and everything that's going on in this country, especially with COVID and just all that's going on in this country, has been super stressful. I know I've personally been stressed. Isaac and I talk about the stress that we have endured being in Zoom school, just from
Mm-hmm.
working and school and just personal life and
Mm-hmm.
just everything that you have to deal with. So it's very important to manage stress at times like this because you don't want to get burnt out. Um, so these are just some tips and some things that we found helpful to manage stress. So we'll get started. So the first thing is to keep in mind that stress is not a bad thing. I think a lot of times we try not to be stressed, but stress is not always a bad thing. It's about managing stress. That's the key goal is to manage stress. Because the reason why stress is still important is because with stress, it motivates you to do better. It motivates you towards your goals. So that's why having a little stress is okay. There's such thing as good stress. There's such thing as bad stress. Um, the second thing is you want to talk about your problems, even if it doesn't change anything. Like, think about a time where you were so stressed out and you just went and talked to a friend, and just by like venting and just like putting it all out on the table, how good it felt afterwards. So, needless to say, talking about it just feels good just to get it off your chest, even if it won't change anything. Just talk about it so that you can feel better. It also releases hormones in your body that reduce the negative feelings associated with stress when you talk about it. And talking about it is valuable. It's a great way to connect with others
Mm-hmm.
because nothing feels better than to talk to someone about what you're going through. And then after talking to that person, they say, "Oh, I'm going through the same thing," or "I can relate." And then, a conversation starts based upon that. So that's something that is very valuable that you can use to help manage stress.
And Brittany, I'll just like chime in on that one too, because I know for me the same way. Talking just about things that are stressing me out in my life has been super helpful. And I know Brittany and I, like being students together and being at Scare together, we have definitely had conversations
Most definitely.
about things that are stressing us out, and that has been really, really helpful. And so, like Brittany said, just find people in your life who are important to you that you can like talk to, and that people that will listen to you about the things that you're going through. Because like Brittany said, your problems, like even if they can't be solved, maybe talking to somebody about them could be helpful.
Yes, yes. And to add on to that, just in case you didn't know, SCARE does have counseling, and we are two of the counselors here at SCARE.
Mm-hmm.
And, I say utilize the services if you can, just to help you manage stress, to give you some tips, to have someone that you can process with. It's an amazing feeling to be able to talk to someone and connect with someone that can really give you some just I don't want to say sound advice, but just some tips and things like that to help you manage stress.
Mm-hmm.
So utilize the scare services. So yeah. The next thing is prioritize your responsibilities. In times like this, we think that the world is just going crazy, right? So, being able to understand and prioritize what your responsibilities are and understand things that you cannot control. We cannot control everything that's happening right now Only thing we can control is what we do, how we think, and things like that. So it's very important to understand that and understand that you can only do what you can do. So that is a part of prioritizing your responsibilities. So one thing that you can do is make a to-do list. And I know sometimes to-do lists can get overwhelming if you have so many things on your to-do list that you have to do. So maybe if you want to start out with a very long to-do list or something like that and start making it smaller by taking off the things that aren't important at this time, things that can wait, and start prioritizing the things that are most important at this time. So if you can do that, that would be very helpful. So another thing you can do is knock out all the small tasks. So if you knock out all the small tasks first, then it kind of feels better sometimes to know that you've accomplished small tasks, and it can potentially motivate you to do bigger tasks. So those are some ways that you can prioritize your responsibilities.
And Brittany, I'll hop in again. Another thing with the to-do list, something to keep in mind is that like sometimes you might be inclined to put something on there that like you might not have control over, and that can be really overwhelming, and that can kind of cause even more stress. So for the to-do list, try and put things on there that you can control, because there's a lot of things right now with COVID, with the state of, you know, COVID in this country that are hard for us to control on a personal level. And so the to-do list is all about things that like you can control in your environment.
Yes, yes, most definitely. And that kind of ties into the next point. So focus on the basics. So the basics, just making sure you're eating healthy, your sleep schedules, your exercising, and other forms of self-care. Those are your basic needs. And if you focus on your basic needs and make sure those needs are met, then potentially it can help out with other stressful situations. Because if your basic needs aren't met, it's very hard to stay sane. It's very hard to kind of move throughout your day if you're worrying about where you're going to sleep, and you worry about not getting enough sleep, or you worry about your food and things like that. So making sure that those basic needs are met, just focus on the basics and then let everything else follow.
And I know sometimes with the basics, they seem so simple, like taking a shower, eating, getting the right amount of sleep. Sometimes those can seem maybe less important than like some of the bigger things that you have on your to-do list. But like Brittany was saying, those are the things that are gonna keep you like in line and keep that stress level on a naturally lower level, if you can manage to work those things in.
Yes, most definitely.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So the next point is don't put all of your eggs in one basket, right? So I think a lot of the times we put so much energy into one single thing, and a lot of the times it's something that we can't even control. That's the funny part about it. So understanding not to put all of your eggs in one basket, but being able to kind of manage your energy and where you're putting energy into is important. You want to really balance that time. You want to really balance that energy and between different areas, so that way you can potentially get more things accomplished and more things done. And it helps you not experience as much burnout, which is the key goal, is to not get to that space where you're burnt out. And I think nowadays with everything that's going on, it is so easy to get burnt out. I know I've been in a place of burnt out since COVID has happened, and I've had to like figure out how to like bring it back and manage it and figure out what I can control, what I can't control. And that's one of the hardest things, is when you've experienced burnout and then you're trying to go back and bring it back. But it is most definitely possible to do, as long as you take time for yourself and really try your best to manage it, and use some of these tips that we're going to actually talk about in this presentation.
And with like, burnout is a real thing, and it does take time and effort to learn these ways to manage the stress and to be able to manage that burnout, because like Brittany said, I know I've felt it a lot at times during COVID, and to manage the stress, it's not something that just happens. It does take like some time and some effort to figure out how you're gonna manage this. So hopefully some of the, like Brittany said, some of the stuff that we're gonna talk about can kind of help you all to do that.
Yes. And then another thing to keep in mind with that is with not putting your eggs in one basket, putting it in areas such as your career, your family, your friends, your personal hobbies. Put them in places that are going to replenish you, that are going to make you feel good. You know, making sure you're putting that right energy into the right places. Something that I've learned is when it comes to energy, it's a real thing. So, you know, that positive energy is a real thing to keep us going, keep us motivated, makes us feel good. So you want to go towards more positive energy so that you can get that positive energy out of it. So that's just some things to keep in mind with not putting your eggs in one basket. Put it in places that's going to fulfill you.
And another thing related to energy, when you do notice yourself like in areas in your life where the energy doesn't seem quite right, where it seems a bit more negative, that's when like some of these like things that we're talking about are going to be really helpful to just acknowledge, like, okay, I'm in the energy where I'm at, like maybe some of the people that I'm around are not the greatest. Those are the times where these tips can be really helpful, and to like acknowledge the space that you're in and let yourself experience that, but not let it overwhelm you.
Yes, most definitely. And so the next point is to set aside time for yourself. Set aside time to relax. Set aside time to have some fun, do some things. And I know that is harder said, you know, it's easier said than done, you know. So just try your best to, even if it's 5-10 minutes out the day, you know that when you come home, you have a little time to yourself to wind down. Or, you know, maybe you want to do a fun activity with your kids or something like that really just replenish you. But make that a priority in your life, right? Just as your job is a priority, just as your kids are priorities, yourself is a priority. And putting yourself at the top of the list is not wrong. It's not selfish, right? So being able to put yourself there on that priority list so that you can find things that make you happy, things that are fun. Do small things, you know, take a bath or take a walk or, you know, something like that. Whatever makes you happy, watch a movie or a TV show or anything like that. Or just sit in a room and just close your eyes and just imagine and meditate. Anything that's going to really give you that energy, like, you know, set aside that time for yourself to get that energy. So yeah. The next point is keep things in perspective. So take a step back and think about how important your stressors are in a broader context. So ask yourself these questions. Will they matter in a week? Will they matter in a year? Writing about your stressors can also help you develop a healthier perspective. So I think we also mentioned in the presentation about having like a journal where you could just write down your thoughts. Like no matter how scattered they are, just write down your thoughts so that you're able to get it off of your chest, get it out of your head, and you have just kind of like this physical representation that you can look at and see all of your thoughts. Like it's one thing when we think them in our head, it's another thing when we put them on paper. And you know, sometimes like you put it on paper, you look at it and be like, well, can I really do this right now? Like, is this really important? Like, is this something to be stressed about? Like, so it's really helpful to do that. Another motto that I kind of go by is, if it's not going to matter 5 years from now, do not spend more than 5 minutes thinking about it.
I've had some important people in my life tell me that this year, and that has been something where it's like, wow, you know, you're right. Like, I'm stressing about this little tiny thing that's happening to me this week, but like Brittany said, is it gonna are you going to be worried about that same thing in 5 years from now? And so that piece of wisdom has been really helpful. And another thing Brittany was talking about, like using the journal, we were talking earlier about how helpful it's been for us to, talk to people in our lives. And sometimes if you don't have somebody to talk to, if some of the things that maybe you're stressed about, you don't feel like sharing, the journal can be a really good way of, just like Brittany said, getting that down on paper, putting that stress somewhere other than like your head.
Yes, most definitely. Write it down if you can.
Mm-hmm.
Like it feels better. That's something that I can personally say that I'm learning how to do is write more things down.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not the best at journaling because I feel like sometimes it might stress me out more to see my thoughts on paper. But I'm learning to not judge myself for my thoughts. And I think that that's something to keep in mind. It's just not judging your thoughts for what they are, because your thoughts are valid, like your feelings are valid. So being able to just write it down and just see it, for what it is sometimes helpful just to get it off. So yeah, that is the last tip I have for right now, and we'll move on to our next part.
Okay, so our next part is just kind of some really concrete ways and things that you can do to try and slow down and just manage some stress and kind of get your mind out of that really anxious, stressed out place that many of us have been in during COVID. So the first thing that I'm going to talk about is this. It's called safe/calm place imagery. And so what the idea behind this is, you kind of think of a place that you have been or that you would like to go that feels really safe and really calm to you. It could be something like a place that you went when you were a kid, or a beautiful spot in nature that you love to go. So whatever this place is for you, just like think about what image this place represents for you. It could be the beach, the mountains, or like your bed, a comfortable, cozy room. And so the goal here is to kind of try and pay attention to the details of what you are seeing. Like whichever place you're picturing, just try and think of as many details that you can think of. I know for me, one of the places is just like being outside on grass with trees and with where I can see the sky. And so when whatever place you're picturing, just try and notice the colors and the shapes that surround you in that place. And when you do that, then start to notice some of the sensations in your body. And when you're doing, like, how do your arms feel? How do your legs feel? How does your chest feel? How does your head feel? Are you still thinking about everything that you need to get done today? And as you're noticing the sensations in your body, then start to maybe think about what emotions are you experiencing? Are you feeling happy? Are you feeling sad? Are you feeling cozy? Are you feeling comfortable? Are you feeling taken care of? Are you safe? Notice those things. And then kind of as you continue to think about this place, what sights are you seeing? What can you smell? Like, what sensations do you feel? And then describe those things to yourself as you're sitting there thinking about this place. And then notice the relaxation and the pleasant sensations that you are feeling in your body, and just kind of sit and allow yourself to enjoy the memory of this place and all of the senses and emotions that you feel being in this place. Even if you're not there in reality, you can kind of maybe go there in your mind and in your body as a way to remember and to hopefully calm yourself down during a stressful time.
Wow, Isaac, as you were saying that, I started to kind of go to that place myself, to my place. And it felt amazing just in that moment, just listening to his voice and just hearing him like guide, um, be a guide through this. And something that I want to add to that is, if you're not able to kind of imagine this place yourself, you can also go to like YouTube and find videos and things
Mm-hmm.
like that to make that place like real. So one of the things that I used to do, for me, just a little story. So I am from Georgia in Atlanta. If you know anything about Atlanta, there are no beaches in Atlanta. I just so happy. I love the beach. I have always loved the beach. So one thing that I would do, like for me, the beach is my safe space. It's something about the water for me, and just looking out into the ocean and just never seeing like a end, and just thinking, wow, like all of my problems can just wash away in this ocean and just float away, and it's all gone forever. Just the sound of the ocean, the birds, the sand, the way my toes feel in the sand, like all of that. So what I used to do was actually go to YouTube and look up a video, like a meditation video of the beach. And there are beautiful videos on YouTube where, you can hear the ocean, and it's just like just the water washing up against the sand, and just the sound of that. And I would just close my eyes and imagine myself at that beach, just listening to that sound. So using YouTube, or like if you have Spotify, or there's the Calm app, or things like that that have like different nature sounds or things like that, whatever is kind of like that sound or that image for you, you can find that there and just kind of close your eyes and use that as a guide. So that's some of the things that you can also do if you don't feel like you're at that point where you can just sit and imagine, because I know it's hard.
Mm-hmm.
I've been there. It was hard for me to start meditating at first, but once you kind of have something to guide you in that way, it sometimes can make it easier. So that was something that might be helpful to do it that way as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Thanks, Brittany.
Yeah.
Okay, so the next thing is called tension release. And for this, you want to try and sit down or lay down comfortably. And for this one, so wherever that is for you, um, so you kind of just drop your shoulders and unclench your jaw, and then kind of pretend that your body is kind of like cooked spaghetti, and you just kind of sit with your whole body kind of limp, and you just kind of let the tension out. See, me and Brittany are kind of doing it right now. Kind of just let your body sit, and then scan your body and see if you can notice where any tension is in any part of your body. And when you're doing this, remember that we are the ones that are holding the tension in our body. So we have the power to release it. But like Brittany said with the last one, these things, even like these ways to de-stress, it takes practice, and it's not something that's like the easiest thing in the world all the time. And so just remember that like we have control over it. But like Brittany said, it's not always going to be easy. And then another thing with this tension release, just remember to breathe while you're doing this. While you're sitting like cooked spaghetti, sit here and try and breathe. See, I can feel some tension in my chest right now. I'm trying to let it go.
Yeah.
The breathing is helping, but
I feel tension in my shoulders.
mm-hmm.
So yeah, just take a moment now, and just kind of feel where the tension is in your body, in this current moment, and acknowledge it, and take some deep breaths and see where you are.
And if you are feeling tension, accept it. It's not something to be ashamed of feeling tension. There's no real right way or wrong way to do any of these things. So give yourself some grace while you're going through these things and while you're trying to do it, because like I think Brittany and I both said, we are still working to figure out how to do some of these things too, and it's a process.
Even though we're counselors, we fall short too.
Yeah.
So
We gotta practice what we preach, don't we?
we do.
We do.
We should.
Yeah, we gotta try.
Yeah.
Okay, so the next thing, somewhat similar, is called belly breathing. And for this one, just like the last one, find a place that you can sit or lay down in a comfortable position and close your eyes and just start to breathe in slowly as your belly and your stomach starts to fill with air. And as you're doing that, you want to hold your breath for a few seconds. And then you want to breathe out slowly through your mouth as if you were breathing out of a straw. So breathe in. Hold for a few seconds. And then breathe out through a straw. And you really want to try and breathe from your belly, not necessarily your chest.
And another way to help with breathing from the belly, imagine your belly as a balloon. And as you breathe in, the balloon fills up. And as you breathe out, you're letting the air out of the balloon. So if you think of your belly as like a balloon, as when you breathe in, you're blowing the balloon up. And as you breathe out, you're letting the air out.
And then just repeat this as many times as is necessary until you feel a bit more comfortable and a bit more calm. Okay, so the next one is probably one of the first grounding exercises that I ever learned. And I've used this one in my life before. And it's really simple. It's called the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 grounding exercise. And so the idea behind this one is you name 5 things that you can see, 4 things that you can touch, 3 things that you can hear, 2 things that you can smell, and 1 thing that you can taste. And so right now, sitting here, I'm gonna try and do it, okay, Brittany?
Okay.
Okay, so 5 things I can see. I can see the camera over there. I can see the water bottle here. I can see this table that we're sitting at. I can see Brittany, so that's 4. And then I can see Brittany's got a pair of sunglasses over here. And then 4 things I can touch. I can touch this water bottle. I can touch bracelet on my hand. I can touch my jeans. I can touch this table. And 3 things that I can hear. I can hear the sound of there's some computers in here. I can hear somebody's voice in the background, and I can hear Brittany just like rubbed her hands on her legs, and I could hear that. I could hear the sound between Brittany's hands and her legs. And then two things that I can smell. See, this is where it gets difficult. Can you smell anything, Brittany?
I smell like, this might sound crazy, but I can smell like the smell of like a building. Like, you know, that kind of building smell that you can smell. Like, if you ever been in Scare, I think you kind of know the smell that I'm saying. It's a good smell. It's a good smell. But kind of the smell of a building, but it also smells like someone might have some type of fragrance on their desk. I can't make out what the fragrance is, but it's something there. So I can definitely smell those too.
And then one thing that I can taste that my mouth is a bit dry. Maybe because I'm a little nervous, maybe. But yeah, that's one thing that I can taste. I should probably take a sip of water. But yeah, so that is the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 grounding exercise, and
yeah, I actually like that. I've full disclosure, I have never done the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 grounding exercise. And looking at this and actually like watching you do it, and then also doing a little bit of myself, it actually was a really good exercise that I think would be nice if you wanted to do it with someone, right? So if you want to take a family member or, you know, your kids or anybody, friends, whatever, and do it with them. And you can even do it like during COVID over the phone, on Zoom, on FaceTime. That's something that could be interesting as a bonding, grounding experience or something.
yeah, because it was fun. It was fun doing it. But I don't think I've ever actually done it with somebody before, but it was fun doing it with Brittany. And yeah, like if you notice yourself kind of like just getting caught up in your head with your to-do list, maybe just take a minute and like take a second and try and like walk through these things, just to see if you can get yourself back to reality.
Yeah.
Okay, so next one is called butterfly hugs, and there's a question about this one on the survey, so just watch out for it, okay? Okay, so butterfly hugs. For this one, you cross both your arms over your chest and place, let me see if I can do it.
Is this it?
I think so. And place your hands on each shoulder, okay? And then this one's pretty simple. It might look a little weird. I know Brittany and I are laughing a little bit.
It's a struggle.
Yeah. It takes a second to get set up. Okay, so for this one, you just want to tap your shoulders gently with each hand and then alternate. So just sit here and just alternate your hands and just kind of notice how it feels to be held, and just keep doing this until you feel a bit more relaxed. And again, kind of with all these, just remember to breathe during this.
It does feel really good. It feels like, it kind of reminds me of like when someone gives you a hug and just pats you on the back, like that pat kind of reminds me of that. And it's kind of like giving yourself a hug and just patting yourself on the back, telling yourself things are going to be okay. Like, just calm down, just relax a little bit. Relax, things are going to be fine. That's what it kind of felt like as I was doing it.
Yeah.
What about you?
If I really the tapping for me, I think was the part that was most helpful. Like Brittany said, just feeling that it's kind of like reassuring, and like Brittany said, give yourself a pat on the back right now, because like we're all struggling in one sense or another, and so if you can take a minute, pat yourself on the back, and breathe. Hopefully, the butterfly hug will be helpful.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, so we talked about this a little bit earlier. So this is the journaling that we had talked about earlier, and this is just, it's called mental dump journaling, and this is where you just you take 10 minutes, maybe set a timer, whatever you need to do, and you just write down anything that comes to your mind, anything at all. There's, like Brittany was saying earlier, there's no judgment for whatever comes out from your mind, through your pen to your paper. There's no right answer. Just 10 minutes, write down what you're feeling, what you're thinking, anything that comes to mind.
Yeah. And I mean, if you don't have a journal, then just take a sheet of paper and put on a sheet of paper and maybe put it in a safe space. And sometimes it might help just to go back and look at it and see, like, this was on your mind, and like see where you're at, like maybe a week later or however much time you need later. If you do want to buy a journal, you can get a journal from Dollar Tree. If you're on a budget, that's a great place to go to find a journal. Any of the dollar sections, Target, things like that. Marshall's, TJ Maxx happen to be one of my favorite places to go get journals, for disclosure, because I think the journals are pretty inexpensive. Like, you can get a journal for like $3.99. And it's a really nice journal, and some of them have quotes on them and things like that. So I really like that. But yeah, like just getting somewhere where you can just write this stuff down, just clear your mind.
And I know for me, for buying journals, I've gone to Vaughn's in the school supply section. I've gone for like the cheapest possible journal that I could find, and those are what I've used for school, and I've like used them semester after semester, and I've written just about like filled them all up, not necessarily with journaling, but like class notes and things. But yeah, those are the journals that I get. Yeah, and yeah, take a minute, take 10 minutes, write down what you're thinking, what you're feeling. And Brittany, one thing that you said, you were saying maybe write it down and keep whatever you wrote in a safe place. And earlier we were saying how whatever you're worried about now, are you gonna be worried about that in 5 years? And like Brittany said, are you gonna look back at what you wrote down last week, and are you gonna look at that and be like, whoa, I was worried about that? I'm not so worried about that now. Or maybe you still are worried about it, but either way, just again, like, just have grace with yourself and allow yourself to like accept the things that you're writing down without judgment. And yeah, I like that idea of putting it in a safe place and maybe coming back to it.
Yeah, I like
to look
that.
at it again.
Have grace with yourself. That is important, to have grace, because right now, like, understand that if you're still here, you're still alive, you're still kicking, like you're still trying to make it. You are, you're here, and you should have grace with yourself, because this is a hard time, as we said before, and we continue to keep saying this is a difficult time. Please have grace for yourself. Please don't beat yourself up about what you didn't do, what you can't do, what you haven't done. Like, don't beat yourself up about it, because we're in such a stressful, uncertain time, and we're really in a fight, flight, freeze mode. So just having grace for yourself, and just understanding where you are, and just acknowledge where you are, and be okay with it.
Mm-hmm.
It's just so important. And, that journaling, I think really helps with that. And just like you said, Isaac, going back a year later, or, you know, 5 years later, things like that, a week later, a day later, depending on how often you want to go back and just look at these things is, so helpful. So
Mm-hmm.
helpful.
Mm-hmm. And going back to grace, like I think sometimes it might be easier for us to have grace for other people, but it can be so hard to do it for ourselves, like
Mm.
Brittany was saying. And
Mm-hmm.
so I just want to like reiterate that because like that is difficult to do sometimes, to have grace for yourself and allow yourself to just be where you're at, allow yourself to be stressed. But if we can have a little more grace for ourselves, give ourselves a butterfly hug, pat on the back,
Mm-hmm.
maybe something will shift.
That is true.
Okay, moving on. The next thing is just pet therapy. And, you know, animals are a really great source of regulation for our bodies. And so for this one, if you have a pet, I know maybe not everybody does, but if you do, go find your pet and maybe lay your head down on their stomach and kind of try and match your breathing to theirs. And like observe their breathing, and as you're doing that, notice how maybe your body becomes calmer as you kind of get in sync with your pet.
Yeah. Yeah, and I know sometimes you might have a pet that doesn't allow you to like yeah, like full self disclosure. I have a puppy. She is 9 months, and I try sometimes when I have a hard day to cuddle up with her, and she's kind of like, "Why are you laying on me?" But she'll lay on me all day, and just even her laying on me though, and just me feeling the breathing from her laying on me, or like sometimes she just lay on me and go to sleep and just ball up, and just sometimes just having that feels good, or just like petting her
Mm-hmm.
and just like rubbing her and things like that. And your animals know. Trust me when I say your animals can pick up on your emotions. They can feel what you feel. They can feel when you're sad. They can feel when you're stressed out. They can feel all of those emotions. And it feels good sometimes to kind of have that companion there, to just feel those emotions with you, and sometimes even just see the life that's in them is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And how they don't
Mm-hmm.
stress about anything and
Mm-hmm.
just live their best lives.
Yeah, yeah. In Brittany's got a little puppy, and the place that I live, there's two chickens that live in the backyard, and sometimes I'll just find myself looking out the window, and I just look at the chickens, and it's just comforting to know that they're still there. Their days, they live a pretty simple life, and they're walking around, hanging out, like and so it's just comforting to know that they're still breathing. So if they can still be breathing, try and tell myself that I can too.
Most definitely. Most definitely.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, so the last one that I'm going to talk about is called earthing and grounding exercise. And for this one, you just want to like get outside, find some grass, find some earth, find whatever you can. Just be connected to the earth, to the elements in some way, and do this barefoot and just stand and notice how your feet feel as they are connected to the ground. And then as you're doing this, again, I'm talking about this all day, take deep breaths and notice how your body feels, how your feet feels when they connect to the earth. I know for me, I mentioned earlier, just walking on the grass is so healing to me, and just like feeling that energy come up from the earth and then kind of letting my stress out through my feet as I'm standing there. And even just, and also like walking on the concrete or the cement barefoot, the warmth of it is like really healing, and just being out and connected with the earth barefoot is something for me. I know that like that really helps me feel kind of grounded and recentered.
Yeah, I don't. Well, I've walked barefoot before, of course, outside, but I don't think I've ever thought about it in that way as a grounding exercise. To just walk barefoot and like connect to the earth. Now I'm gonna have to try that.
Okay.
I'm gonna have to try that.
Yeah. This is one of the ones that like that I like a lot.
Okay. All right, now we're gonna move on to some family mindfulness practices that you can use. So the first one is waking up. When you wake up in the morning, there are two things that you can try. You can do a body scan, which you just start with your toes, work your way to the top of your head, notice the sensations in each part of your body. And so, for example, notice the feelings of your clothes resting on your body, and on your legs, the tension, the muscles. Just notice all of that. Notice like the cool air on your face when you wake up. It's nothing for me. It's nothing like waking up in the morning to fresh air. I love to open the windows in the morning and just really feel that fresh air. For me, is like amazing. So next is the five senses. So with the five senses, it's kind of like what we did with the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, where you notice things that you can use your five senses to notice things that you can smell, things that you can see, what you can hear, what you can feel. See, hear, smell, feel. I always,
I know.
Every time I go through this, it's always crazy. But see, hear, feel, smell,
Taste.
Thank you.
That was the one that we were struggling with earlier when we did it. Taste is Taste is tough to remember.
It is. So those are your five senses. So you can do that with your kids. That will be really great to do with them. I think they really enjoy stuff like that, just to notice little things like that and touch stuff, and those are kids. But just remember to try to be COVID friendly. So this is something that maybe do in your home versus doing out in public. So those are some things to just keep in mind in general with some of the things that I mentioned here, is to be COVID friendly with it. So another thing that you can do is mindfulness check-in. So this is at mealtime where you can do this. So you can start a conversation with your kids about the here and now, asking your kids to share one thing they feel physically, one thing they are thinking about, one thing that they are feeling emotionally. If your child has difficulties putting their emotions into words, try giving them options to choose from. So one thing that's interesting about that, one, just having a mindfulness check-in and a here and now is always great, especially for kids, for them to express their feelings and emotions and really feel heard. Because I know, we did a Zoom school back last month, and one of the things we mentioned in that was just how stressful it is for kids right now being in school, during this time. And it's hard already probably to focus being in school. So having to do this on the computer is even harder. And especially, like kids that have ADHD and things like that, and just thinking about all of that and just keeping that in mind of how hard it is to sit in front of a computer on Zoom. I don't know if parents, if you all have to sit on the computer on Zoom all day or anything like that. I know for Isaac and I, we both have classes on Zoom all day. So it is very hard, and it's draining, and it's emotional. And then not only mention like doing therapy via Zoom and things like that. So it gets hard. So just keeping that in mind, and then understanding like if you just talk to your kids about their emotions and kind of help guide them to put it in words. Another thing that could be helpful for you to do, and I actually did this yesterday in my family counseling class, but having your kids create like a emotional monster. So basically what an emotional monster is, you just give them some paper, give them crayons or whatever, and have them draw out a monster that represents their feelings. And then they can be even more creative if they want and start to draw like a story. Write a story with it or name their monster and things like that. And sometimes just doing it in that way is fun, and it also just helps them be able to verbalize their emotions and feelings, because sometimes it's hard for kids to express what's going on with them. So just doing something like that is helpful. Another thing that's helpful is, I don't know if you all seen the movie Inside Out, but Inside Out is a beautiful, great movie. Even as an adult, I love Inside Out. It's something about that movie and the way it talks about feelings and emotions. So even if you just put Inside Out on and just had them like understand emotions a little bit more, um, but that's something that can help with that mindfulness check-in, to help them verbalize their emotions and kind of what's going on with them a little more.
The mindfulness check-in sounds like, to me, a really good way, like Brittany said, of kind of getting people to get maybe out of their head. And like, at meal times, it's kind of like you might just ask a question like, what did you do today? But I really think the mindfulness check-in, like, name something that you're feeling physically, name something that you're feeling emotionally, and then name something that like you've been thinking about. Sounds to me like a cool way to get kids like to try and like express what they're feeling, because like we were saying earlier, all these mindfulness and grounding techniques, they're not things that like come naturally to us necessarily. And just in the same way, like talking about emotions and talking about feelings and what you're thinking and like what you're feeling physically, like it's not always natural to do and to have those conversations. And like Brittany said, I think doing that at mealtime can hopefully create some of that sense of just like we talked about earlier, talking to people as a way of healing, as a way of de-stressing.
Yeah, most definitely. The next thing is mindfulness eating. Mindful eating. This is so important. How many times have you sat and like had to rush to eat food? Or are you just a fast eater? I know that personally I eat fast, and I try to use mindful eating as a way to help with that. But it's basically just taking time to slow down when you're eating. Notice what you're tasting. Notice the food that you're eating. Notice what it looks like. Notice what it smells like, what it tastes like. Um, so using those things to help you like be in the moment. And it's especially good like if you're eating your favorite food and just taking it in, or if you're eating a meal with different dishes and things like that, and just taking in what you're eating in that moment, and taking in like all of the smells and all of the taste and things like that. And it also helps with your digestion as well, to slow down and be mindful when you're eating. So just making those little observations while you're eating are helpful.
Yeah, and I was thinking as you were saying that, like, it could be helpful to, if you're eating as a family or if you're eating with somebody else, to really like describe out loud all those things that Brittany was just talking about, like the texture of the food, the taste of the food, the smell of the food, and like work to, and that can be a way to like Brittany said, to slow down while you're eating. Because I think as we were talking about earlier, eating is one of those really basic needs that really, if we can like do it and we can slow down while we do it, can be a really good way to like get rid of stress.
Yeah, yeah, it's a really good way.
Yeah.
And to really enjoy your food more too.
I know that's something, eating slowly is something that I probably could get a little bit better, and not like eating in front of a screen. But yeah, think I definitely like food enough to think about it a little more than I do, I think.
Mm. Yeah, something to think about.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Mhm.
All right. So the next one is in the travel section. So, like I said, of course, we have to consider COVID. However, there are ways to get around this. Like if you're going to the grocery store, or I know a lot of people for the holidays coming up are actually like traveling by car versus flying home or to different places. So this is something that you can do. These few things or stuff that you can do that way. So first is I Spy. I don't know if you all ever played I Spy, but I have played it and I actually enjoy I Spy. So I Spy is a fun game, fun family game that you can play where you just sit in a car and you just say I spy something red with a handle, right? And it can be the car, right? You know, so things like that, or a wagon, or I don't know. Anything that you see as you're traveling could be I Spy. So it just allows your kids to notice their surroundings, and it's
Mm-hmm.
really good, like, especially if you're traveling like long distances or something like that. Like, it's really cool because it's like you can be like you can notice things in different places. So if you're traveling like state to state or city to city or anything like that, like you might notice different things in each city. So it's a really cool mindfulness game that you can play to just like I spy something. So yeah.
I I love playing I Spy. When I play, I say I spy with my little eye something red, something with a handle, aka the car. But yeah, no, this game is so much fun, and I know like I played it growing up as a kid, and like I think it reminds me of that 5 4 3 2 1 grounding exercise that we were talking about earlier, because it really like makes you pay attention to what's going on around you, as opposed to like things that you're stressed out about, that you're thinking about like constantly.
Yeah.
Just a really simple fun way to do that.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, you can even play it in the house. It does not have to be when you're traveling. It's fun to play in the house. I've played it in the house before. I've played it with clients before. So it's just a really fun thing that you can do wherever you are. It does not have to be just traveling. So that's something to also think about as well.
Yeah, I was thinking, yeah, we've, I think, done that with clients too. Just on Zoom. What can you see? What can you get? Can you make the person that you're talking to guess what they can see and find in your room, just where you're sitting? So, because like Brittany said, with COVID, we're on the computer all day, a lot of us, and doesn't necessarily have to be travel. We could do it in this room right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah. So another game that you can also play is the alphabet game. So the alphabet game is basically starting with the letter A. So you just say like find something with the letter A. Um, or well, there are different ways you can play. You can play it that way. Find something with the letter A. And then have your kids find something in that moment with the letter A. And just go down the alphabet A through Z. Another way you can do it is just start calling out things, with the letter. So you can say advertisement, billboard, car, driver, like, things like that. And like I said, once again, same thing with the alphabet game. You can also do this in a house. You do not have to do it when you're driving. But traveling is a great way to do it, to like, engage with the kids, but you can engage in the house as well. So, yeah. All right. So the next thing is the mindfulness bracelets. So you all are actually going to receive a kit if you have not already to do bracelet making with your kids. So it's mindfulness bracelets. So with your kids, spend an afternoon making bracelets that are fun and comfortable to wear. Every time you notice the bracelet on your wrist, take a moment to notice one thing you see, hear, smell, and feel. And practice at home to get your children in the habit of using this skill even when they are not with you. So I think that this is also a good thing to do now that we're on Zoom school, to give the kids something to look forward to. So you can be like, hey, after school today, we're going to make bracelets. So that way that gives them something to look forward to. So maybe you can use that as an incentive for them to pay attention in school. Also, I think having a bracelet while in school could be a distraction, but it can also be a good distraction. So I want to point that out because a lot of times, like, we want kids to kind of pay attention in class, which is great, but also realize like how hard that is to do that. So me personally, I know I'm a fidgeter, and when I am in class or anything, I fidget with whatever is in my way. So sometimes it might be cool to have them have the bracelet on, and they're kind of fidgeting with the bracelet. I so happen to have a bracelet on today, so sometimes I fidget with this bracelet. Um, and I'm just mindful of what this bracelet is. Like, it's a crystal. I'm blanking on the crystal it is, but I know it's a protection stone. Just for the retrograde that we're in, but yeah, just have your kids like just look at the bracelet, feel the bracelet. They might have a memory connected with the bracelet from making the bracelet. So those are some things to think about with the bracelet making. I'm excited for you all to get your bracelets and make your bracelets. I hope that maybe you all will share pictures and maybe we can see the bracelets that you make. That would be so amazing. I hate that we're doing this via camera and we can't like actually be here with you all to make this stuff and like see you all and things like that. But I'm still glad that you all are able to get these items so that you can have some time with your family. Mindfulness bracelet making.
Yeah, that sounds like a really great idea. And like, I know kind of same way, Brittany. I got a couple bracelets, and I just kind of spent some time just moving them around on my wrist, and just kind of notice like you said, how it feels as it moves across my skin, like how it feels in my fingers when I'm touching the bracelet. Yeah, and just like, again, just a way to kind of put you in the present moment. And I know another thing that we all sent out to you all is paint by number, and kind of wanted to talk about like kind of ways to do that in a mindful way. When you pull out the paint package, notice like the sound that the plastic maybe makes as you're opening it up. Notice the smell of the package and the packaging, and just notice like how the paintbrush feels when you dip it in the paint, how it feels as you're like kind of streaking the paint across the paper. Notice the texture of the paper when you're setting it down. What does the paintbrush feel like? So yeah, as you're doing these things, try and, like we've been talking about, take the time to see like what is actually happening, what the activity feels like in the moment. Yeah.
Notice the colors that you use. Notice the colors that it's asking you to use for whatever picture, and like even you can even like think about the picture that you're painting and think about like if you saw it in real life. So for example, I have a paint by number set at home, and it's a parrot. And so I think about the parrots and just the colors of the parrot. I think about how when I think of a parrot, I think of the zoo because I don't know where else to see a parrot. Well, San Diego has the parrots out, but just figured that out. But yeah, just like different things like that. Or I think about like I've always wanted to go to like a jungle. So I think about like seeing the parrot in the jungle, and I'm creating this painting in the jungle as I'm looking at this parrot. Like, it's just things like that that you can think about. Just be creative with it. And I think that when you're creative with things like this, and when you're really taking the time to think about things little by little, step by step, it makes you appreciate the beauty in things. And I am one to value beauty. So if you just take the time to just go through things slowly and, take your time, because I think with the society that we live in now, we rush through so many things. So if you just take the time to stop and just go slowly with doing things like this, like, you can take in some of that mindfulness and some of the feelings and really appreciate and value things. So it's important.
Yeah, it's really important because, like Brittany said, the society that we live in is always like, go, 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 and get this done, and be stressed out about your to do list. And, you know, that's kind of the whole point of this, is to just try and like find as many different ways as possible that we all can like just slow down and be present with the things that are, in front of us. And like we said, it's not easy to do because our society is telling us to act differently. But if we can, hopefully that can like help to slow us down and de-stress us during this really stressful time.
Yeah, definitely.
Mm-hmm.